Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So today I'm going to be telling you about two romances that I recently finished. So let's dive right in. The first book I'm going to talk about is Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Liese. This was a book that I listened to the audiobook for and quite liked both narrators. The synopsis or premise is our main female character, Beatrice, and our main male character, Jamie slash West. He has a couple different nicknames. They do not have a great first meeting. Actually, there are spilled drinks, lots of snark. It's kind of a little bit of a disaster, a not meet cute. And they realize that this has been their friends kind of trying to push them together. And then a little bit later, they realize that their friend group keeps pushing them together, pushing them together, pushing them together. So they concoct a plan to enact revenge against their friends, to fake date, fall in love, and like put on a fake relationship where they really fall in love and then they break up and it just like breaks all their friends' hearts. I guess. I don't know. If that didn't make much sense to you, it didn't make much sense to me either. So that's sort of the situation. We have fake dating, somewhat, I would say, opposites attract here between our two main characters. And there is a little bit of sort of forced proximity because they keep pushing themselves together in this fake dating relationship. This is also sort of an inspiration from Much Ado About Nothing from Shakespeare, but it's been a very long time since I've seen that. So I can't speak to that element of this as a inspiration of the source material. There's also very good representation here for both autism as well as anxiety, as well as, a number of LGBT characters, including Beatrice. So all those representation things are great because Chloe Liese is awesome. I also personally have read, I think this is the fourth Chloe Liese book I've read, so I do enjoy her writing style quite a bit. I felt like she does a really good job on the tension, and that was true in this book. There was some chemistry there that was very sizzling. Both Jamie and Byeee have attraction for each other, and that is very clear pretty much from the start. And so I really liked kind of seeing over the course of this book how the two of them fit together, both like physically, but also as their personalities are more revealed and they get to know each other, because they have to, you have to put on a successful fake relationship, or, present that they're super in love. So they, do a lot of like get to know each other. And so I really felt like that emotional development was present here. And I loved seeing that because it was fun to see them fall for each other. That's like one of my favorite things when fake dating is done well. I love to see the characters actually fall for the other person and try to resist. So there is a little bit of mutual pining in that, like, I have to resist the other person in this book, which I enjoy because that amps up the tension. I will say that I felt this book was a little bit like lighter in tone and overall content compared to the first two of the Bergman Brothers series that I've read. And I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I will say, even now, only like a few days later, there's a tiny bit of a big chunk that I'm struggling to remember. So is it like not as memorable? I don't know, time will tell. But the banter and, like I said, that emotional development was an A+ from me. As I mentioned a second ago, I felt like the logic was kind of weak for this title. I know that I think that there is this element of the fake dating that happens in Much Ado About Nothing, and so that's sort of why that was here. But like, I didn't understand why they felt like it was going to be like revenge on their friends to be together and then break up, unless they were planning on then pretending to be miserable about this breakup and be heartbroken for forever. Like, I didn't really see how it was going to like really like get their friends, I just kind of was like a little annoyed with that. But I don't know. I also will say that I felt like the structure of the book for a contemporary romance was kind of interesting because there was a more like it's almost like a slow burn to some extent, because even though there's all this tension and longing between the two of them, it does take a very long time to get like a build up to an actual sex scene. So we actually get to see all of the like romantic entanglements and the falling in love part happen before the sex scene. The sex is a driving factor for sure because they have all the tension between them, but like it happened at the end of the book, which I thought was kind of an interesting structure for a contemporary modern romance. I also will say I agree with most people in the reviews that the third act conflict was really dumb because a little bit of communication could have helped everybody in this whole situation. And like, I understand miscommunication happens in real life, but like, it was a dumb third act conflict, and I felt like that was a big reason to drop this a little bit in the rating overall. But overall I did enjoy this. I would give it like kind of like a high 3-star, like a low 4-star, because I felt like we got to see all that emotional development and see how Jamie and Bee really fit together. So 2 wrongs make a right worked out for me in my favor, and I really enjoyed it. We shall see how long it sticks with me overall, but definitely enjoyed the book while I was reading it. And then, even though I had 5+ books that I was in the middle of currently reading, I picked up a new one, which was 3 Swedish Mountain Men. This is by Lily Gold and is the book for, I think, classic literature, which is hosted by a bunch of different of my friends here on BookTube. And so I picked this up. This was my first Why Choose romance. I read the ebook, which is available through Kindle Unlimited. So we have Why Choose, there's 1 woman and 3 guys, and there is some forced proximity because our main female character is Daisy. She's very clearly at the start of the book sort of like running away from something in her life. Something bad has happened in her life, and she's like, I've just got to get away. So she's in Sweden, and she is caught in a snowstorm and almost hits a moose, and she totals her car, and these guys like rescue her and take her to their cabin. And then over the course of a couple weeks, they all start a relationship together, and there's abundant sexy times and fun, and everyone falls in love. So I do feel like I was annoyed with the writing multiple times throughout this book. Felt like the writing could have possibly used another pass through the editing process, and I'm trying to balance that out because I think this was self-published through KU, so how much editing could that have been? But there were certain word choices and phrases that sort of just rubbed me the wrong way or were odd. And like, while the spice level, the steam level in the sex scenes was hot, it was definitely very smutty, fun time. There were definitely times when it didn't really make much sense. I was trying to like figure out what positions people could possibly be in, and then also, if your mouth is full, can you really be talking? That happened multiple times. So I don't know, I felt like there was some writing that could have used a little bit more polish. But overall, the structure to me was what was very interesting for this book, because we actually take the time to get to know each of the male love interests, and we get to see a little bit into their backstories as to sort of what baggage they're carrying, what trauma they have from their previous relationships, as well as perhaps even longer than that. And then we also have time in this book to like sort of address each of those things. Like, Daisy gets to know each of these guys, and she realizes how she can help them, and also they have like open and honest discussions where they are vulnerable with each other, and then they start to begin that acknowledgement and resolution and working on it process. And so I really liked that each character felt not super well-rounded overall, but they felt realistic enough, and then they like both had a problem, talked about the problem, started working on resolving the problem, and like the love interest and the like the 2 love interests, the woman and the man in each of these 3 situations, like had something to do with that. And so it felt very well tied together. So I felt like, was the plot a bit overdramatic? Sure. Was it still very fun? Was it still very sexy? Was it actually sort of structurally well put together and well thought out? I thought so. So I actually quite enjoyed this overall book. I have read a couple of reviews that say that all of Lily Gold's books that are also Why Choose are basically the same characters, just mix and match to some extent. She always has the same like tropes or personality characteristics happening, but I had a good time here, so I would definitely read more from Lily Gold. The last thing I'll say about 3 Swedish Mountain Men was also that I felt like the third act conflict was a little bit overdone, just because basically the characters know from the start that Daisy has not been totally honest with them and has been holding some information back. And then eventually when that information comes to light, they're like, I can't believe you've lied to me. And I'm like, but you knew that she was not being truthful this whole time. So it just felt a little bit like overdone, or sort of like something more could have been a better source of conflict and tension. So thankfully it was like resolved, but also it was just kind of frustrating at the time to read it, because I was like, you know that she's not been truthful. Why are you blowing up at her? So overall, still really enjoyed it. Would read more by this author. I'm glad that I've actually finished a book club book, because now I can participate in any of the live show discussions on it, and I enjoyed it. So those are the two recent romances that I wanted to talk to you about. I've been thinking that maybe this might be a format that I continue doing, because it feels like I have a chance to talk about each book and sort of give it a full review, but not have to like do a whole month wrap up. I can just kind of do some recent romances and just kind of come out with these videos whenever I've finished a couple romances to be able to talk to you about. Let me know if that sounds appealing to you. Let me know if you've read either of these romances that I've talked about in this video. Let me know if there's another romance kind of video you want to see from me. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see what you guys thought about either of these titles down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!